I'll be starting on the left eye as always. I'm using a black Faber-Castell polychromos, and you can also use a prismacolor. It doesn't really matter because it's just the color black. And I'll be starting with my darkest areas first and then work my way towards the lighter areas after. So right now you don't have to really work with such a light hand. You can use a pretty medium to hard pressure just to get the colors down, but because I do want to be a little bit more careful since it's the eye and I don't want to make a mistake that's too dark to be erased, so I'm just using pretty medium pressure. I wouldn't say this is light pressure either. At this stage, I'm just outlining the eye. Whenever I feel like I'm confident enough or I feel sure that this area is supposed to be dark, and then I will press my pencil really hard and use very hard pressure to seal the color in. So after I do this, it will be much harder to erase, but it ensures that your pencil marks are gonna stay where they are. Now making sure the colors are as dark as possible, and I'm just outlining the eye so I know what the shape is going to be like. Usually when I'm making these thin lines, I want to use a little bit of a lighter pressure first just to get the lines right, because if I press too hard, the pencil, it might kind of bleed to the rest of the grain of the paper, so it might just end up where I don't want it to be. If it makes the lines look a little fuzzy or thicker, so I have to use a lighter pressure to get those very thin and smooth lines. The next color I'll be using is Tuscan Red. This color is from Prismacolor, and I'll just be outlining the eyelid and also work my way towards the waterline as well, because these areas are more of a fleshy color. I'm using this red, but yet it's still a dark color in order to outline the top lash line. Right now I'm using pretty light pressure in order to get, once again, the thin lines without the color bleeding to the rest, to the surrounding areas. As you can see, it's starting to form a very precise shape. Now I'll be going over the lash line with a black Faber-Castell polychromos just to darken the color a little bit, since it's not supposed to be that red, but I still want to have that flesh undertone. I'm going back to the Tuscan Red color, and I'm just gonna start coloring the eyeball. This area, it's actually pretty dark, or it has like more of a fleshy color, fleshy tone, so I'm just setting this down for the base layer. Now I'm going in with the color Nectar, also from Prismacolor, and I'll be layering it on top, and I'm using light pressure for both. Going back with the Tuscan Red color to darken the Nectar color. Now I'm using a darker gray for the eye. You can use a French gray 30% or a cool gray 30%, doesn't really matter. And now I'm layering on top a jade green, also from Prismacolor. So those two colors were from Prismacolor, and I'm mixing them together to create more of this cool toned with a little bit of green in the eye. I'm going back with the Tuscan Red color again, just to emphasize that in the outer corner a little bit. Now I'm going in with the color Sky Blue Light from Prismacolor just to lighten that area a little bit. And I'm going back to Jade Green to layer that on top. I'm switching to Sky Blue Light again, just to create a little gradient in this area, since the center of the eye is going to be much brighter than the outer and the inner corners of the eye. I'm continuing with the Sky Blue Light to create this better gradient effect and brighten some of these areas in the center. Now I'm using the color Seashell Pink from Prismacolor. I'm going to start coloring in this inner corner of the eye. I'm going back in with the Sky Blue Light just to layer it in between the Seashell Pink colors. I want to darken the eye a little bit, make it more crisp, so I'm using the black polychromos again. I'm using the color Nectar from Prismacolor. I'm just going to be placing down more of the flesh tone. You can also use a white Prismacolor, but I happen to have this very small Caran d'Ache white, so I'm just using it, but both works really well. Some would say that the white Caran d'Ache performs better, but I think that they both do the job, and Prismacolor is just good. It's just as good as a Caran d'Ache white. So I'm going back with the Tuscan red color, and I'll just be darkening up more of this outer corner. Switching back to Seashell Pink just to layer on top and make the red, the Tuscan red, less intense. Going back with Seashell Pink to fill in the rest of the inner corner of the eye. I'm using the Tuscan red color, and I'm making sure that it's really sharp to make this very thin line to continue outlining the eye, and I'm also using it to create the flesh color in the inner corner. I'm using the Tuscan red color to create this very small shine in the inner corner of the eye, since this area is pretty wet and there's sometimes that little sparkle in there that I want to show, so I just had to create a very small but precise circle. I'm continuing with the color Nectar again, and this time I'm coloring in the waterline of the eye. Using the color Seashell Pink again to start coloring in a bit of the waterline of the eye. I'm using the color Clay Rose from Prismacolor to start using it as a base for the eye color. So this might seem a little bit surprising at first, but then afterwards we can layer on with different colors to achieve the tone that we want. So the first layer I'm using pretty light pressure, so it's not too big of a deal. If you end up using the wrong color or something, you can simply erase it or just layer a whole nother color on top. Right now I'm just trying to achieve the perfect tone of the eye color, so I'm doing my best to match it. Starting to use the color black to create more depth in the eyes, and I'm also layering the clay rose on top to soften the black and also put on the second layer of color. Now using the color Caput Mortem Violet to darken the clay rose that I placed down. This one is from Faber-Castell Polychromos. And you can see that it's starting to create a softer gradient where it doesn't look too harsh initially between the clay rose and the black color. Now I'm using the color Rosy Beige to create use it as the lightest color in this part of the eye. Using the color Light Peach for the waterline of the eye, and I'm continuing off of the seashell pink that I used earlier. Using the color Tuscan Red to just go over the eye one last time. Using the color Henna now to start the gradient for the inner corner of the eye. And I'm layering on top a seashell pink to soften the Tuscan Red color. Using the color Gray-Green Light just briefly in that corner, and I'm back to the Tuscan Red. Using the color Nectar from Prismacolor again, just to connect these two areas together, the inner corner of the waterline. And I'm switching back to Seashell Pink to use and fill in the whole waterline all together. I'm using the color Raspberry from Prismacolor just to create this shadow that you're gonna see later on. This is formed by the frame of the glasses, so we're just gonna outline that just in case so we don't forget afterwards. Using the color Nectar again to go over this area of the eye. And I'm starting to use it for the skin tone, so I'm just going to layer it lightly closer to the eyelid. Using the color Seashell Pink again for the outer corner of the eye. This is more towards the skin tone, so just going to lightly layer that down. I'm also starting to use it for the skin color in this area as well, using it as the base layer. Going back to the color Jade Green to change the eye color, so now you're gonna see how it shifts from a purple tone to this lighter green color for the eye, sort of like a gray as well. This time I'm using medium to hard pressure. Now I'm going back to the skin tone, so I'm using the color Beige from Prismacolor. Using the color Beige with light pressure as the second layer on top of the Seashell Pink from earlier. I'm now using the color Peach from Prismacolor, and I'll be using this as the third layer so you can see the skin tone starting to form. And I'm also using the color Nectar to darken some areas of the skin. I'm mixing it all together using the Seashell Pink from Prismacolor. So for the skin tone, you might have noticed that I'm mostly using a Prismacolor because these pencils are very soft and they blend skin tones really well. Going back with Tuscan Red, and I'll be lightly outlining the outer corner of the eye. I'm going in with the Seashell Pink for the inner corner of the eye. For most of the skin tone, I do start off with the seashell pink color from Prismacolor. And right now, as we're moving in towards the inside, I'm using the color Nectar from Prismacolor. So you can see how I created that gradient starting from the lightest to the Nectar, which is the middle color, and then Tuscan Red as being the darkest color of the skin tone. I'm using the color Clay Rose from Prismacolor for the upper eyelid, and now I'm lightening the waterline using light peach. Using the color Jade Green again to just desaturate the Tuscan Red layer that was colored on before. And now I'm using Tuscan Red to bring out some of it towards the outer corner. Using the color Nectar again to just start outlining these areas where the eyelash is going to appear. And I'm using the color Deco Peach to sort of change the tone of the skin color